you that after 2 years of learning how to take ourselves seriously as scholars and as writers, that we didn't have to wear these silly hats. In any case, it is an honor to speak to you on behalf of my brothers and sisters of the inaugural graduating class of the Fairfield University Master of Fine Arts Program. While it's tempting for me to take this opportunity to thank the many people here who have helped me personally over the past 2 years, as the representative of the entire class, I simply want to extend our heartfelt thanks to Michael White and Elizabeth Hastings for their steady, wise, and good-humored stewardship of this program these past 2 years. We are proud to have been the first cohort of what is fast becoming, thanks to your hard work, one of the premier low-residency MFA programs in the country. Our thanks also goes out to everyone who has joined us here this evening, Fairfield University administration, MFA faculty, our fellow students, friends, and loved ones. I'm reminded on this august occasion of another somewhat less grand graduation ceremony that I attended last year, at which a dozen prison inmates received their GED certificate. I don't mean to insult anyone with the comparison. There's a big difference between a bunch of convicted criminals and my fellow MFA grad. For one thing, a convicted criminal stands a better chance of getting a book published these days. But I keep thinking of something that the featured speaker said at that ceremony. He was a local middle school principal, a kindly man who bravely challenged the tough, generously tattooed graduates with the same question his mother used to ask him whenever he'd accomplished something meaningful. Okay, and what are you going to do now? In anticipation of this evening, the question has haunted me ever since. So what are we going to do now? No more program-imposed deadlines, no more supportive mentors awaiting our packets of stories, poems, essays, no more 10-day immersions at this idyllic island. We're on our own now in the hostile world of publishing and academia, where book contracts and teaching jobs are few and far between. We've all read the depressing articles about bookstores closing, layoffs in publishing houses, universities cutting costs, and of course, the end of serious literature as we know it. With these depressing thoughts in mind, and searching for examples of literary triumph in the face of adversity, I have requested of our esteemed faculty samples of rejection letters they've received over the years. Here are some highlights. Joan Connor received this one from a literary agent. You are writing stories that look at life in a way that most people would prefer not to see. Here's one from Granta. Dear Nalini Jones, your essay, Food, is a delightful piece of writing, but I'm afraid it isn't for Granta. It's simply too essayistic for us. Rachel Bass perhaps has some sort of purging ritual, was very generous with her rejection. From an agent reads, Dear Rachel, thanks for your letter of the first and the 2 stories. I am pleased to see that you will be a creative writing student. I do not think you are ready for an agent, or may I be so bold for publication. Another agent, after showing great interest in the early chapters of Rachel's first novel, had this to say upon reading the entire manuscript. God knows the last thing the world needs is another maternal Jeopardy story. Finally, having submitted her work to a short story contest, Rachel received this heavily Xerox form letter. Thank you for letting us read your work. We read it closely and with interest. However, we were not able to use it for this year's American Fiction Contest, signed Michael C. White. I received the old school rejection template more times than I can count, in which the piece has made the rounds and everyone loved it, but then the editor-in-chief is called by his first name and some production-related reason for rejection is cited, and then she writes in capital letters, B-U-R-N. Exclamation point. Several faculty members chose to tell uplifting stories about the hope they found in a hastily scrawled note of encouragement from an editor, or the vindication they felt when their work was finally accepted. Dodge Shem wrote to me in his unmistakable voice, which I will not try to recreate. All you need is one person in this world to love your writing and publish it, so that 1 million would get to read your books. Of 6 billion of earthlings, sooner or later you will find that one. Okay, so 6 billion to 1 far long odds, but still, I'd like to think it can happen. So, when I address this to my fellow graduates, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do when you wake up in the middle of the night asking yourself why you got this MFA degree when you could be 2/3 of the way through law school? What are you going to do when your mother or your uncle or your own kids ask you when you're going to wise up and do something useful? What are you going to do when you get that 745th faded heavily Xerox form letter rejecting the book you spent years writing and rewriting? What are you going to do when that blank page stares back at you, taunting you with its vast white space until you go snowblind? I'll tell you what you're going to do. You're going to keep on writing, and you're going to remember this. In some civilized countries, parents actually want their kids to become poets. Playwrights and novelists run for president, and sometimes win. Essayists affect public policy with their take on current events. Remember this, there have always been storytellers, from the Cro-Magnon who drew pictures on the walls of caves, to the blind man beside the campfire babbling on about the fall of Troy, to the guy sitting across from you at Starbucks, madly typing into his laptop computer. Remember this, somebody has to tell the truth, whether it be in the form of a sonnet, or a short story, or a memoir, or a screenplay, especially now, when words matter so much less than they used to, when whole countries are run by semi-literates, when elections are decided by lies and fear and ignorance. As author Rachel Kaddish said, this country needs people who can connect words in a way that makes us feel we recognize the world around us and don't have to tilt our heads any longer to make the picture hang straight. Finally, remember this, though it feels like you are not alone. So I ask you, what are you going to do now? Keep on writing, that's what. What are you going to do now, Elizabeth Hills?
Keep on writing.
What are you going to do now, Amanda Foyer-Burke? What are you going to do, Tess Brown, Lindsay Ferrara? What are you going to do, Steve Adamowski, Christine Schaefer, Katie Schneider?
Keep on writing.
What are you going to do, Ann Hasenstadt, Teresa Brusegi, Christina Morant?
Keep on writing.
Tina DeMarco, Joe Carvalho,
Keep on writing.
Jody Foote, Pat O'Connor,
Keep on writing.
Annabelle Mosley, Justin Skates. What are you going to do, Lisa Calderon, Mike Picoco, Ben Hilson?
Keep on writing.
What are you going to do, Dan Fitzpatrick, Donna Woods, Orazio, Jane Sherman?
Keep on writing.
What are you going to do with Kelly Goodrich, Bonnie Cook, and Chuck Johnson?
Keep on writing.
I'd like to close now with a quote from some literary giant, not James Joyce or Ernest Hemingway or Flannery O'Connor, but from an author whose work ethic and generosity towards his fellow writers is legendary. In his great book, On Writing, Stephen King says, "Writing isn't about making money, getting famous, getting dates, or making friends. In the end, it's about enriching the lives of those who will read your work, and enriching your own life as well. It's about getting up, getting well, and getting old. Getting happy, okay? Getting happy. Writing is magic, as much the water of life as any other creative art. The water is free, so drink. Drink and be filled up." Thank you.